Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our last digital services forum call of the year. Today, we want to go through with the team. We have Jeff is on with us, Peter is on with us, we have Charles, and I think Jason will be here as well. We want to go through and review some of the accomplishments for this year to start with, and then also talk about next year and how we might think about reshaping some of what we've been doing or adding to it, I guess is a better way to look at it, so that we can get you more relevant content and help you even more than we have been in the past. That's our goal for today. Let's start with who we are. And we talked a little bit about this, put it through some of the new AI tools that are out there so that we can kind of think about what we've been doing based on all the content and all the discussions we've been having across the community. And today, if we look at it, this is a good definition of what we've been doing a lot of. So this year we spent a lot of time on the common service data model specifically, but also around some CMDB in general. Of course, the common service data model is a core piece of that. We spent a lot of time on governance because a lot of people are trying to figure out, what roles do I need to make sure this operates as efficiently as possible. Along those same lines, the team structuring. And then we did look at other forms of architecture. So ecosystems architecture, and then we also had some representatives from business architecture on so that we could talk about the different forms of architecture that we use to be more efficient, ways that we use to communicate all these ideas. So we tried to stay as much as possible away from specific product demos. We know you have a lot of resources for product demos. And we focused a lot on strategies and things we can share, ways to help you communicate complex topics in your organization. So just in the comments, or if anybody wants to come off mute, does that seem like a fair characterization for those of you that have been on a lot? So if you keep it going in chat, we'll gather as much of this information as we can to try to shape a really good kickoff for you next year. So Jeff, Peter, Charles, any comments to add to that?
I'll just say that, as much as we've done this as a community, we really have appreciated customers as they've supported and worked with us on content or come forward and present it. And the other is that, there's a lot of calls where there isn't active chat. It's been great to see the interactions that have been happening both in the forum, and we know the relationships that have built and are happening outside of it. So, as much as this is a forum, I really look at this as a community, and it's great to see how well connected we all are together. So thank you all.
Thanks, Peter. All right. One of the things that we keep an eye on all the time is we are an enterprise architect group in ServiceNow, right? So we definitely have steered this conversation and the topics more towards that enterprise architecture topic. We also work with a lot of ServiceNow administrators, developers, other IT operations leaders, people that are seeing either the ITAM program or the ITSM programs. A lot of those people come pretty regularly. Leaders from different parts of the organization. So we have people that have come in, CTOs, CIOs. I don't think we had many people on from HR or facilities, but a lot of people that are looking to transform their services. And I got 3 more roles. So if you think about all those roles, think about which ones you fit into the most. There's a couple topics we talked about, governance and compliance. And a lot of the modeling and the exercises we've done have fallen into that category. There's people that run specific areas on ServiceNow or off ServiceNow. And so if you manage ServiceNow as a product or one of the applications on ServiceNow, those are some of the people that we see attend pretty regularly. And then we have had a few sessions where people are specifically focused on ITFM, IT financial management. And if you remember that, if you guys were there for that one, we talked a little bit about the cost models on the platform. And we also brought in people we had a guest from Orange County Sheriff who talked about chargebacks And then we did have a partner on that specializes in IT financial management. Okay, so over the year, those are some of the people that we've had on. What I want to do now is I want to just take a minute and see the people that we have on today's. We're going to run a quick poll, and I just have 2 polls for today so that I can, we can use it in next year's planning. But the one I want to ask today is, of these 7 roles, which roles do you fit in? Which role covers you? Let's see if I can get the right one. Which role is the one that you fit into mostly? So I have a little bit of a definition. I left a little bit of the definition we have on the pages here. I left it in the survey. So this way we can just make sure that our assumptions are right. We do have, when you registered, we have some of the roles on there, but we thought we'd take a poll on here and then use this poll regularly just to make sure, like I said, we're tailoring the content as best we can. And when we're inviting speakers on these calls, we want to be sure to tell the people that are attending, because that's one of the questions they ask. Like, they know we have people from all over the world, and they know that we have people from different organizations and different industries, but they want more detail on who you are and what type of content you would prefer most. And the bottom, I also put a second question, so you might not see that in the survey. There's a second question, if you entered other. I want to know what roles we're missing so that I could explain your role as you're on the call. I'll leave that open for a few more minutes on the role definitions. Right, there's some secondary roles we have in here too. So there's, from time to time, we've seen people register as business analysts. We've had CIOs and CTOs in here, both as speakers and as attendees. People from some of our partners have been starting to come in more. And last year was the first time we opened it up to partners. We've had people from the security side, especially in some of the risk-based conversations we've had. We haven't really done much on SecOps, but we have done a couple of conversations on risk. And then the front-end design, that's another area that we've talked about on occasion, but we haven't spent any significant amount of time on that one. All right, I'll leave that survey open for another minute, and then we'll come back and check it out. All right, so what I want to do next is I want to review 2024. I'll take you through some numbers and show you all the content that we've co-developed and how it's being consumed across the world so that we can get a better feel for that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. Go about 83 in. Yeah, I think it's slowed down. I'm going to go ahead and end it and show you who we've had on the call so everybody can see the results. Right, you should be able to see the results on your screen now. So it looks like we have number 1 is the product managers, which is interesting. We've been talking about that role a lot more. So it's a big time up and coming role that we plan on spending a lot more time on, especially as we go into 2025 with CSDM 5. It's going to be a real big focus on product. So that was our top one, and followed by the IT operations leaders. We have a lot of people, I guess, on the platform, and then also in the specific module areas. And then enterprise architects are number 3 on the list. No, they're number 2 on the list. No, number 3. I'm sorry. Number 3 is enterprise architects, and number 4 is ServiceNow administrators and developers. All right, and let's see the other. I'll tabulate some of the other ones. We have other comments on who the roles are, and I'll make sure that I post those and we get those incorporated if there was some pattern there. So any comments from anybody else on those? Is that as you expected? Peter, Charles, Jeff? Any surprises?
I'm a little surprised.
Go ahead, Charles.
I'm a little surprised that the developer platform wasn't higher, that the EAs and product owners both outrank that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a little surprised that the product managers were so high because the adoption of it just isn't as mature as, some people that might think of themselves as platform owners or other things. It is really exciting to see. I sort of want to ask a follow-up question if anyone wants to put it into chat around, are you following IT for IT as you're doing this too? Just to see a correlation if there is one between the two.
Yeah, I wonder if we talked anybody into being product managers. We've certainly been pushing that topic. All right, I'll stop sharing these results and we'll go into some of the 2020 overview. And so we always track the people that I'm inviting to these calls. So if you are getting an invite from me, I keep a running list of people. And the state of Colorado is the one who brings the most people or has the most people that I'm inviting to the call. Higher ed is still our top industry, even though the higher ed was 100% in the beginning. We started in 2018. But you can see that we're getting a broader spectrum of industries involved. Still heavily in California, but again, the industries are expanding as well. So we started in California. For the first 2 years, it was all California based and all higher ed and state and local. So thanks for all of you new industries that are coming in and broadening our horizons for us. Really appreciate that. And so today we have 1,848 members that I invite on these calls. So we're up about 43% year over year. And what's really happened, these meetings, we've had a lot more attendees on these meetings, and I think that's attracted more people because you have this great chat going on. I think we've had 4 breakout groups that have happened on the meetings where you said, hey, John's talking about this general stuff, or we're talking about this across a broader community, but we want to talk about something specific to our industry. So I know there's been at least 3 breakouts that I know of, which has been really cool. We get about 180 people on these calls. That's been our average this year. Last year, we're in the 60s or 70s, somewhere in there. Okay, there's a lot of ServiceNow people that come to the call too. So we have about 500 people we invite from ServiceNow. Okay, so the average attendance is up it's over double this year from where we were last year, which is been all of you promoting it, and it's still word of mouth mostly. We talked about the different ways we get the word out, but it's usually you inviting somebody from your organization or somebody in ServiceNow passing the invite along. So the attendance has gone up quite a bit, and our high this year was 341, and that high was Mark's. I don't know if you guys remember, Mark Bodman was on with Scott Lem, and they were talking about CSDM life cycles. So by far, those calls are the ones that we see most attendance on are the CSDM ones. So they're our top 4, followed by some of the EA topics we had. All right, and then we have our biggest channel is definitely putting our content that we create out on YouTube. So we put it on the ServiceNow community. And this year you can see we've had a significant uptick in views. Last year, all year, we had 34,000. And this year, when I pulled this, which was last week, we had 52,000 views on our content. So for those of you that are speaking, there's a lot of people watching you afterwards. It's a good way to get your word out and to find people with things that you have that are common threads. Right? So it's a lot of the people on here have been called by other people to kind of follow up on the topic that they spoke on. So it's a good way to be heard and then to get recognized in certain areas so that you can continue your exploration in those areas. Right. So the views up about 55% year over year. Our watch hours are up about 12%. So we pay attention also to what people are looking at so that we can, again, know where the interest lies. So the watch hours are another good indicator. And you can see here that a lot of the time spent was in that modeling area. So this is another CSDM topic, but it was specifically on that technical domain in the CSDM where we're modeling microservices and APIs. Any questions or comments on that one? All right. So a lot of you, thanks for watching all the videos, and thanks for those of you that help, again, provide the content like Peter said earlier. If we look at the overall ServiceNow community, this is just a fun one to watch, right? But on the ServiceNow community, there's a lot of different content. So 2.3 million views this year on that community. And then there was about 238,000 hours of watch time. So we make up about 2% of the content that we co-create on these calls and in our special events is, about 2% of the overall content in our channel. All right, so that's some of the analysis. I got one more. The community, so basically coming in to this channel is where, when you go to the ServiceNow community, where you can get the content that we're sharing. So on YouTube, you can watch the video, and if the video is enough, that's fine. But if you need the content, either the deck that we shared in the video because you want to rip a few slides out and use them internally, or if it's code, sometimes it's code, or you want to go to the instance where we did a certain configuration, that's all available from our ServiceNow community. So this has grown quite significantly as well. We have about almost 600 members on here. So this is up almost double year over year. And then we put 88 blogs out so far. And we started this, I think, two and a half years ago. And then our top views here are people coming in, learning about the forum for the first time. So how do you access our shared instance? And then people looking at, various content that's on there. The CSDM adoption one, this is one we've updated a few times. This has gotten a lot of questions and a lot of calls on it, as well as the capability map, which is that big deck where we give you, all the drill downs into the different areas. So those content pieces seem like content that everybody gets a lot of value from. So we'll make sure that we keep those refreshed regularly so that you have the most recent copies. All right, any comments on that before I go into 2025? All right. So in 2025, what we're looking to do is how can we make this better? We've done pretty well this year, you can see on the numbers, and we want to make sure that we continue that. And one of the things we don't want to do is we don't want to get stagnant. We don't want to keep giving you the same thing over and over and over again. So what we've been talking about was when we set this up, and we had a call similar to this where we got all your feedback. We set this up back in 2022. And our vision was really to help people through their digital transformations. And that's what people buy the ServiceNow platform for, right? That's why a lot of people are here, is because there's a big transformation going on that you want to be part of. So as members, we want to enable you to be part of that transformation in your organizations. And we give you different content so that you can do that, whether it's just discussions that you have and you're able to participate in, papers that you pull down. A lot of times it's going to be a PowerPoint where you have to communicate some complex topic, right, to a broad audience. So you come in and see how we communicate those things. The shared instance, I think we have about 350 admins last time I checked that all log on to the instance at one time or another. So we'll definitely make sure we keep that resource. And then the videos that we produce. So whether it's a chunk of the video that you go pull out or it's the whole video that you watch from end to end. It's hosted by the enterprise architecture team. Probably everybody knows that by now. But most of the speakers on here, or at the very minimum, the leader of the content is going to be from our team. And our main way of getting information out is in those bi-weekly calls. Now, one of the things we're working on for next year are there tweaks that we have to do to that with all that's going on? So one of the big things is AI, right? AI has been a big question for everybody. And if we're not talking about AI as part of transformation, it's going to be very rare. So AI and incorporating that specifically into that vision was a big piece for us. But also to look at the whole getting new digital services out, getting them out to market. So a lot of times we're talking about the support structure for delivering a series of services. We're talking now specifically, want to go broader and look how those services are brought to market, whether they're employee services or services for your customers, financial services like we talked about. So we want to be a little bit more specific here. We're still kind of kicking this around vision-wise, but it's basically a broadening of what we do today. The mission is the same way, is to empower the members, right? But to make sure that you're involved in the digital products. So that was great that came up as our top before, because definitely the product foundations are a big piece of it. And products are the vehicles for delivering services the way that we usually talk about them. So one product can have, one or more services inside of it. So those two go hand in hand, and we'll talk more about how that shakes out in the new models throughout 2025. And the rest of it, we think we can leave the same so far. But if you have any comments on this or anything that, and we'll be putting this on the forum as well, but if you have any comments on this or tweaks that you think we should make, this is co-created, again, because we've been scraping as much as we can from you and learning as much as we can from you as we go through the forums. But this is our attempt at tailoring it as best we can to the people that we've seen on the calls. Now, Peter, Charles, anybody else? I'll open it up again, make sure. All right. All right, I'm still struggling with a little bit with the categorization here, but I want to look at ServiceNow, and I want to try to give you as much information as I can on it. So if you look at ServiceNow, one chunk of it is going to be your customer experience section. So if you're doing claims management or support or billing or subscription management, in the public space, we see a lot of grants management. So if you're doing anything that's customer facing, where you consider your customers, whether that's another business or it's an individual, all of our products fall into that area for customer experience. Another one is technology excellence. This is more traditionally where ServiceNow started. So this is where your ITSM, your ITAM, your SecOps, all those things you need to really get a hold of your technology, from the assets to hardware, software, cloud, right? To get a handle on all those things and make sure they're running properly. Some people might have heard of this as like the ITX products, right? So ITSM, ITAM, ITOM. So they all fall into that bucket. The employee experiences are where we start talking about HR and facilities or workplace. So a lot of the tooling that comes into there falls into that employee experience bucket. Operational excellence, this is where your SPM, strategic portfolio management, your risk, and all those other products that you might have fall into that category. Finance and procurement is the newest one that we have, the newest category that we called out separately. So this is where you might have heard of things like source to pay and all of the financial pieces that we need, including vendor and contract management, that comes into there as well. And then the last one I have on here is app dev. Okay, so if you look at I don't know what it is, 6,000 or 8,000 ServiceNow developers that are dropping code into the platform, they're dropping it to support these 6 areas. So all of our products that you can purchase from ServiceNow fall into one of these 6 areas. And then the platform expands all of them, things like AI or the user experience. Those are across all 6 of them. Like the platform may be a 7th area if we were going to consider that specifically. But the platform is meant to support the products that drive these topics, I guess you'd call them. So if we look at what we've been doing in 2024, we've been spending very little of our time on the customer experiences. We haven't talked a lot about doing like a claims management case, right? Or a billing case and what the architecture around that looks like. So not the products themselves, right? But the underlying structure for it that we usually talk about. On technology excellence, we spent a lot of our time. This is where we spent our ITX products. We spent over half of our time in that area. And our goal for next year is to look to balance this a little bit more. So if I go all the way through, you can see that we spent over 80% of our time in the areas that are in the blue, like the foundational areas that we need to deliver all services. And then the areas in the green, these are more of the business functions outside of the foundational pieces, like actually delivering services to the customers or services to the employees or services to our finance and procurement people. Okay. So what we're looking to do next year is to kind of equalize this a little bit more and give everybody a broader perspective on all those different areas instead of spending most of our time in the blue areas, right? More of the foundational areas. The one exception, of course, is going to be in app dev and low code. We didn't spend a lot of time in that foundational area, but that's an area that people have been asking us more about. Right. So with that understanding, and I don't know if there's any questions before. Any questions on those categories or any color to add to it, anybody? So what we'll do.
I mean, John, maybe it's good just to open it up to see if anyone from, the forum have some thoughts about the shift towards it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to do in a poll too. But if anybody has any comments, certainly add it if you want to come off mute or put something in the comments. Right, let me launch this poll and then we'll speak to it. We're trying to get an idea for where you want more, and then we'll look. Then we'll look to the people that you might need to include, or people that you're collaborating with that would benefit from some of this new content if we focus in the areas. Let's check the chat real quick. Is there any chat comments where we have questions on?
There's some good discussion around what's the difference between a product manager and a project manager, and some links were shown, but I don't think I'm seeing too many other direct questions. There's a comment about customer experience as a big focus. No surprise seeing that going up.
Yeah. You actually being a help with those. Right. And the categorizations, these categorizations are the same categorizations that we've had for those of you that shared or got some of the content. These are the categorizations of the products on that big capability slide that you were able to drill down to. There's a list of products underneath each of these areas. And of course, we're adding to those product suites as we go. But these are the numbers we're trying to move in each of the areas. So the product managers build products that are, upping the CSAT over here and reducing the times over here for technology. Right. So there's certain metrics that we move as a product portfolio, but then individual products will focus on certain improvement metrics, towards the transformation that you guys are all undergoing. And we're going to be using this content, the information that you're giving us, we'll be using that to kind of do a launch at the beginning of the year next year and talk about how this actually works. So these are some general numbers I put on here that I said, kind of a what if. And then I'm going to use your information that you're providing me to, we're going to use that to do a more accurate calculation. And then we're actually going to spread the meetings out so that we're giving you content in each of those areas, as the people that have been attending, as architects and as developers and as platform and product owners. So we'll be feeding you relevant content in each of these 6 areas, and also searching for speakers. So if somebody is really interested in the content, we'll be reaching out. We still want half of people that are using the product, so half of our customers, and then half of kind of ServiceNow and partners. So we're trying to get a good balance there between the people that are speaking to this content that we're trying to pull together for you. So I will end the poll. Let's go ahead and share the results here. All right, so we had about 50 people answered here, and we might launch this poll again just to make sure that we're on the mark next year. But preliminary things, it looks like the customer experience is definitely going to be a big one, and looks like operational excellence too. So we did have an elevation there, right? We are saying, oh, in operational excellence, we actually went down a bit. So this one might be wrong. We might want to say we want to stick at the 24% because there's a lot of interest in that strategic planning part. I think this one too is going to see a lot of attention indirectly, because in operational excellence, one of the things that we've just released is a new, basically it's a double down on value streams. So we've revved the value stream model in operational excellence, but those value streams that we operational excellence could be value streams for customers or value streams for employees. So it'll be really interesting to see how we're balancing those topics together, because we're using a strategic planning feature to do strategic planning in these areas. So they could be our use cases. Anybody want to come off mute, or any color to add on this one? Anybody thinking anything differently? All right, let me switch over here. Stop sharing the poll. I think I didn't think we'd have a lot of people on the call today, because this is towards the end of the year, so I know vacations are starting already, but appreciate everybody's input. The other thing we're kicking around are some of the new topics that we would have. So we've been doing a lot of CSDM, and I don't want people, I still want to make sure we do that, but we want to look at the CSDM more for the use cases, right? So how does CSDM work in claims management? Might be a smaller part of a broader claims management discussion, or a quote to cash, right? Those types of things. So in the architecture area, these are a couple areas. We always look at data architecture, business architecture, and technology architecture. So we want to make sure that those are the things that we're focusing more on next year than we have this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so the data
on the topic of CSDM, one of the things we're exploring as an EA organization too is how to hit more channels than we're currently doing with CSDM. So like right now we talk in this forum about it a lot, and then a lot of the ServiceNow EAs do CSDM workshops of one form or another. So we're talking about how to maybe get like regional by industry CSDM workshops with multiple customers coming together, online options like video, that sort of thing. Basically more ways to get CSDM content out there.
Have some feedback if you can. John?
Yeah, go ahead, Lou. I was hoping you'd chime in.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so my observation over the past year, all the CSDM, I think the ITOM CMDB stuff is not really emphasized as much in this forum, but there are other ITOM forums out there for deep dives into those areas. But back to the basics a little bit. You touched on this past year, all things that I get the sense many customers, they're still maybe working on the fundamentals, as Charles just said, right? CSDM. Do you have all the business apps in there, and DPM not leveraging business apps, but leveraging app services or infrastructure CIs, service offerings in place? If you're using enterprise architecture, are all those things already set up with a fully implemented TRM that's depending on maybe SAM if you're using Discovery? The problem is a lot of customers, they may not be using some of these capabilities. They may not have Discovery. What do they do? In this past year, there was talks about APIs being introduced as part of the digital integrations and digital interfaces. But if you don't have a EA, formerly APM, how do you navigate that? So you have a tough job by having such a wide audience that have different levels of different parts of the products of the platform. And where do you make that sweet spot for us staying with at least some of the sessions back to the fundamentals? Because you can't do the more building blocks later if the foundation is still not ready to accept those other things. Let's face it, there are many interdependencies and parts within the platform that depend on other things being in place for you to surface information up to those glorious dashboards and see those wonderful things, which you're never going to be able to see if those fundamental pieces are not in place.
Yeah, so that foundational data becomes a really big piece of it. The customer records on the one side, which we didn't talk about much, but we talked a lot about employee records and locations this year. So I think besides the data in the CSDM, that foundational data that feeds the CSDM kind of makes it more practical too. Good points.
Thank you.
The other part too that's I'm hoping for next year, right? I've only seen CSDM 5 as much as you all have. I haven't probably gone much deeper than the Mark Bodman and conversations you've seen. But one of the things, or two of the things I'm excited about is one, the focus on products, which I think makes the CSDM more practical. It makes it more, where people could understand it. Hey, we're driving our products through this model. I think that is a big thing because a lot of people still don't get services. But if you think products, you think how our organization makes money or how our organization operates. So I think the focus on products will bring us closer to the business. And then I'm also excited about value streams, especially with AI, because a lot of people are questioning all this AI technology. Like, where does it really make sense? So to understand where it really makes sense, you have to understand your process better. So you can say, okay, if we apply AI here, it's going to make this thing 3 times faster, or it's going to improve the experience by 2 points, or whatever the number is. But a lot of people don't understand what those are clear enough to say where AI is going to definitively have an impact. So those are 2 things I'm excited about next year with the new models, is getting closer to those 2 things.
I agree. I feel like we've gotten a lot of interest for that around here. People wanting to be able to visually see exactly how an AI product within our organization will map, how it's going to relate to capabilities. How is that going to affect business units? How is it going to be represented as an asset within our, overall environment, things like that, right? Even though,
Yep.
If you step back and think about it a lot, it fits pretty well into how we've traditionally represented an application service and a business application in CSDM. It's just some of that visualization is important for people. And I think it's a great opportunity for a group like this to show that in the enterprise architecture modeling tool, right, within the CSDM. So
Yep. Yeah, being able to tie it back to that business case, right, Wayne?
Yes, sir. And the value streams, yeah, we're very excited about that. In previous iterations of APM, it was always the lack of an appropriate representation of a value stream, which was a problem for us in terms of greater adoption.
Yep. Last time we talked about this, I don't know if you guys know, but we just added value stream stages, which was a big miss in the 1.0 of value streams.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that kind of gets us ready for next year, in addition to the CSDM, which is going to be heavily focused on value streams too. All right, I think that's all the content I had for today. We're looking for speakers now, right? So once we get your numbers in, we're going to start to calculate kind of that balance that I had here, which is kind of a swag. We're going to kind of rejig this, and then we're going to explicitly put in blocks. So we have 22 meetings a year. We have 2 segments in each meeting. So we'll fill the blocks so that we make sure we distribute content more deliberately than we have in the past. And this way you can see, do I even want to go to that meeting, right? Because I know we have a lot of people, 2,000 people that we're inviting. So there's going to be some meetings that just don't make sense. So we're going to be as deliberate as we can about scheduling it and then notifying you what we're talking about so that you can decide whether, it's a topic that you want to attend or not. But we will try to get you a broader set of content for next year. And that's a commitment from the EA team. Any closing comments from anybody before I wrap up for today?
Hey, John, this is Etta.
Yeah.
You know what I just realized I didn't see on anything? OKRs. I get pinged a lot these days. Etta, what's an OKR? And how do I set them up in ServiceNow? So there is a document, for doing that mapping. But what I'm hoping that the platform does is give OKRs, its true space. Because, you're going from your objectives to your key results, and how are you going to measure the outcomes of your initiatives? We always talk about outcomes. It's like, okay, you measure those outcomes through your OKRs. And so it's that tied together. So we still have all these Lego blocks that aren't connected, which you always know, well, I come back to, the happy path. So you have to be able to connect those. Otherwise they just stay Lego blocks. And so
that's a double down. That's a double down on this one, which is all our strategic planning piece, right?
Okay.
So I think this arrow is backwards based on what I've heard and what I've just the little bit of gleaning I did from the content and what you just said. Because the OKRs go in here in the strategic planning section, and then so I think that's where the value streams are going to sit too, in that bucket.
John.
Yeah.
I was hoping somebody else would tell you, because I feel like you're not sharing unless I'm the only one not seeing it.
It just fell off within the last 5 minutes, Jen.
Okay, thank you. I feel better. I was like, oh.
Did it come back?
Yeah, we're good.
Very good.
Yeah, we're good now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I must have lost it when I bounced the survey. All right. Any other comments anybody wants to add? The voice comments are useful too, just like the chat comments.
Amazing year.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. I learned a lot from you guys, so appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate these sessions a lot. They've been very valuable to me. A lot of times I can't make sessions like directly. I get double booked, so I do always get an opportunity to go back and watch them on YouTube. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, John, some comments. Jackie here. I actually appreciated the DFS topics, like when you went into DPM and demoing those products. Maybe SPM if you have done that. So I feel like what I get out of it is you guys covering products that are already out there that you want some feedback from the customers like us, so they can improve on those products instead of seeing the new stuff, like the new shiny stuff. Like, yeah, we're still trying to, as in a maturity journey, trying to figure out how to use the older stuff. Like, I mean, DPM is a great product that really made us take CSDM really seriously and actually put into practice and actually try to get the whole company to understand the nuance between a business service and a technical service, because that you need like a PhD to explain, to even understand that. Imagine explaining that to everyone else. Like, good luck. So we're trying to. So DPM was one of those sessions I really enjoyed. And I'd like to see more of that. And and maybe you can put out a vote to see what products am I consuming, and I'll just do a multiple checkbox. Oh, I use DPM, we use SPM, we use CSDM for we use Service Builder, things like that. And whatever you're seeing the most voted, maybe have a demo session on that and just back to basics. Just maybe I'll learn something or two from that, so that you can improve on that product. Maybe I saw something that DPM is lacking or needs improvement. Like those would be free suggestions for the product team.
Yep.
On that. I
So
can tell you,
foundational things.
not perfect.
So you strike the balance between foundational things and new conceptual things. Don't focus all on the new shiny stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
I would like to echo that as well. Like there's so much done on the ServiceNow platform to demonstrate everything that's being developed and new and advancing the tool. But I've worked for a number of organizations as a consultant trying to help them build out CSDM, build out their data model, build out configuration management. And most organizations don't even have the basics down to be able to do any of the advanced stuff. I mean, where I'm working now is largely trying to get them replatformed back to an out-of-box implementation for all the customization they've done because they didn't know how to do the implementation the first time. So
That's exactly what we're doing too.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times, and I've done it so many times. There's so much that can be done to help people understand how to use the basics of the tool.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So one thing I've been kicking around, and I was wondering what you guys thought about this along those lines. Like people really like maturity models, and like what is the next thing to do to make my employee experience better, make my customer experience better. So we have some maturity models at the product level, like under CSM, right? Or under ITOM, there might be a maturity model. But would you think it makes sense to have maturity models here, like at each of these? Like if the forum had content that represented maturity models in each of the 6 areas, and then we kind of track the progress there. And then we had, also the content, like, hey, we're doing like level 1 in customer experience or level 4 in customer experience, so that we can mix that up.
I think that helps. Like, so like this, I guess this forum or this session is dedicated to a maturity level 3. So if anyone who's beginner comes in and they may be asking too many basic questions, that might disorient the way the session goes. So is that what you're trying to get at? Is knowing your audience, the level of maturity that audience is in the model?
Yeah, we don't want to miss people on the advanced, being too advanced, but we do want to put some advanced content. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe, I don't know if it's a content classification from a 1 to 4 maturity model or something like that, where we pay more attention to those things. Or 1 to 5 on the maturity models, whatever that number is.
I'm sure we're all mostly 1s. I could still join a crawling level and still learn a thing or two. So
yeah. So we should be more focused on this side than this side. But we want to kind of give everybody a North Star too, so we should put some more stuff out there. Right? Yeah, I'll definitely take that into consideration when we have our meeting. We sync up for next year. Because I think that too, like I'm wondering sometimes if we have 150 people on the call and we're talking over 120 people's heads, or talking to something they won't use for another 2 years.
If I may, for a moment. So historically, one of the main challenges with the ServiceNow platform is that you can do it however you want, right? And what has been historically lacking is that prescriptive guidance for, hey, you can do it this way. This is a preferred approach. This is a model that has been shown to be successful. And what we find with CSDM is that that's happening again from a certain perspective, right? So certainly there's the crawl, walk, run, fly models that have been described, but hey, where's the sharing? Where are the reference models that people have developed? What are approaches that people can adopt instantaneously, right? Hey, we want to do CSDM. Here's the first thing that we do, and this is how we've approached it. And I think that covering that phase one or that tier one, however you described it, with a publishing of those reference models, how people have approached it, maybe kind of opening the kimono amongst this community. Hey, when we started, this is what we did, right? And then getting that out of the way as preliminary content, putting it in the can, putting it on the forums, and putting it in the can, and referring to that, and then maturing the community along that path, right? So you don't have to constantly be at that level one. You have that body of level one content already existing in the community.
Yep. Yep. So sharing more of the reference models like we've had in the past. I think we've done that like 1 or 2 times, but maybe 5 or 6 times instead, right? Making sure we get that out there. Because we're doing them, to Charles's point. I mean, we do CSDM workshops. I think I did 4 this week, 4 3-hour CSDM workshops, right? So that stuff should be shareable, the stuff we're at least doing in those workshops. So maybe we can ask some of the people that we're doing the workshops with, hey, can we put your model out there? Like I've done PeopleSoft maybe 5 times, but we've done some other apps too that, common apps that people would probably benefit from.
Yeah, I think in conjunction with the models, having what use cases they were trying to solve for, because there's any number of ways you can split out an application service and how you want to manage the deployments of it. So understanding what those use cases were that they were trying to solve for would be helpful as well.
Okay. Good stuff, everybody. All right, I think I got a lot of data here to go process and put together, and to have a good kickoff for you guys next year with some ideas on content. But hopefully we can put a much better show together for you next year and get more of you out there speaking, especially the people that are doing it in the field. I think it's we fell a little short this year, is chasing down people to come speak with us, and us just speaking ourselves. So that's some of the big goals for next year, to put together a better set of content. So everybody have a happy new year, and